Hey everyone, welcome to That Damn Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Craig Duswalt, and my other host is John Reese. And today we have a very special guest in our studio. We're actually at his studio right now, but we met this guy a long time ago, went on tour with him. Please welcome Matt Sorum. Yeah, baby.
Wow.
Yeah. So right now we are in Good Noise Studios in Palm Springs, California. We have John and I represent a couple of bands, and we're at this studio. One of our bands is recording right now in the studio. It's an amazing studio, and we are blessed to be here. And so John and I toured with Matt during the early 90s with Guns N' Roses. And I haven't seen Matt in 30 years. I haven't seen John. Well, that's a whole other story. But Matt in 30 years. Matt, what the hell are you up to? What the hell do you do now?
Where is he now?
Where is Matt Sorum?
Yeah, it's funny. They got that online. Right?
Yeah. No, okay. So talk about a little bit of the Guns N' Roses days. Like,
well, we toured together, didn't we?
Yeah. 4 years.
Remember? You remember.
I remembered. You don't remember as much as I remember.
You know what's weird? I do remember. I'm kind of like Rain Man.
Oh, good.
I remember room numbers. I remember all kinds of weird stuff like that.
I don't remember cities we were in.
Yeah.
I have to be reminded.
It was the most classic 2 years in the history of rock and roll.
I think it was 3.5, wasn't it?
Well, 2.5, 3. It was a long time. I mean, we started in '89. You know.
Yeah, you guys started before me.
We started before, but
I joined in '90, right? Rock and Rio, right?
Yep, Rock and Rio.
Did I join in '89 because I left the Cult? Actually, Slash and Duff stole me from the Cult. Yeah, they came and saw me. You know that story,
yeah,
right?
I do.
So Slash and Duff came and saw me with the Cult at the old Universal Amphitheater, which it was indoors, but it was we did 2 nights there, and then Slash. Have you heard this whole story? I'll tell it again.
Yeah, tell it again.
Tell it. Millions of people listen.
Yeah. It's so those guys were there, and we had this amazing sound guy, Bill Price, and he was incredible, and the drums just sounded like, they were just fat and rocking. And anyway, I went home. After the tour, I had pneumonia. I was sick on the road, I'd have to go to the bathroom. I'd run off the stage, and I had to, it was really bad, the runs, and I was like, something's wrong with me. So I got home, and I had walking pneumonia, and I ended up going to my mom's house because I didn't have any place to live. And I was basically a vagabond. I had a suitcase, and I was on the road with those guys like almost 2 years. And I get this call. My mom comes in, and she said, there's a guy named Slush on the phone.
Good old Slush.
Yeah. So I got on the phone, and, Slash said, hey, it's Slash, And they said, me and Duff saw you, and I saw them come in.
That was at Universal Amphitheater.
Yeah, I remember them pouring out of a limousine with 2 chicks each. It was pretty cool. I like those guys. I like their style. And then they said, hey man, we really like your playing. And I said, well, what's going on with Steven? And they said, well, he's getting taken care of himself. And originally I was just going to play on the record. That was the thing. They thought I was just going to do the album, which ended up being 2 albums. Usually I wanted 2, but then I got up there. I remember they checked me into the Oakwoods.
Oakwoods?
Yeah.
That's where I met Slash.
Yeah. It was a good time back then.
Yeah.
And then, I started rehearsing with them, and then I remember them going, hey man, Axl's going to come down. And that was about maybe a week in. And then Axl came down. He kind of walked through the room, looked at me. That thing he would do?
Yep.
Kind of cock his head.
Side of it.
The side head look. And then he looked at Slash and went and then walked out. And then after that, at the end of the rehearsal, Slash says, hey man, come up to the house. We'll have barbecue. And Slash and Duff and me, we'd always kind of go drinking anyway.
Yeah.
You guys were the 3 Musketeers for 4 years.
We were the 3 Musketeers. So I went up with them, and then we sat around Slash's little table in his trippy apartment up Laurel Canyon. Or not apartment, it was a house, but it was small. And snakes everywhere and shit. But and he said, hey man, we want you to be in the band.
Wow.
And I said, oh man, can you mix me a cocktail? And then
I need a drink.
yeah, and then I remember before Doug came around, it was Alan Niven was still there.
Alan Niven.
And anyway, they asked me to be in the band. We worked out a deal, and I became a member of the band. And, so yeah, that's how. And then obviously Rock and Rio, and then we started the Big Use Your Illusion tour. And did you come in right at the beginning?
No, when Izzy left.
Right.
I started when Gilby started.
That's right.
Yeah.
There was somebody else around before, right?
Blake Stanton.
That's right.
Yeah. And then Blake left in Germany. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Because you're in charge now. Bye.
I remember.
Like a month in.
I remember that.
So, so then you toured. Obviously.
And John was our tour manager.
John was the tour manager.
He was the one that was trying to keep us, in line.
He did a good job.
I have a fond memory of me wanting to go out one night, and I said, "John, I'm going out tonight." He's like, "No, you're not." And I was like, and I said, "Come on." I said, "Come on, what are you, my dad?" And he went, "Yes, I am." And the middle of my chest caved in. I was like, and I woke up with his fingerprints on me, his knuckles.
Matt and I had multiple times of incredible stories.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time to tell those stories.
Yeah, but it was, being there with you guys and seeing you now, it's like wow. Because it was another lifetime ago.
Oh my God.
Like when we talk about 30 years ago,
30 years.
People want to hear those stories and stuff. I look back, it's like, I always say this, it's like watching somebody else's movie.
Yes, I do the same thing.
It's almost like if you were to turn on Netflix and go, "Oh wow, look at that movie," because
it was an alternate universe.
It's a fucking long time ago, but in all reality, it was one of the greatest eras of rock and roll that cannot really be replaced. Yeah. It was the last of the Mohicans, basically. Maybe Velvet Revolver touched on it a little bit, but the only difference was we all got sober.
Big difference.
Yeah, we were talking before we started the podcast about being dangerous. Like Guns N' Roses was dangerous.
They were the last prodigious global force. Yeah.
I remember nights when we go on stage and it would just be so chaotic and Axl wouldn't want to go on. But by the time we got up there, everyone was so pissed off.
Yeah.
We just threw down like banshees.
Yeah.
And that anger and frustration, and I got to look back and say maybe that was his intent because he knew keeping it a bit edgy was going to keep us real.
Yeah.
And, I think the way we played on stage was a reflection of the energy, which was not always, it's not like, "Hey, how you guys doing? Let's go play a rock show."
Yeah.
And that.
No, every night, because I was with Axl, every night was kind of like there was some sort of edge to something. Something was going on that had nothing to do with the show, nothing to do with individual people, but there was this edge going on, and you guys brought it to the stage.
Well, and I've said this before, great singers, the greatest singers, and I've been with some great singers. Axl Rose was one of the greatest frontmen of all time. Oh, yeah. Scott Weiland, same thing. He had stuff he dealt with, but Ian Astbury.
I'm a Freddie Mercury fan.
I've been in bands with those three guys. I've been in a band with Alice Cooper, but Alice Cooper got his shit together, and then
by the time you were there, right?
Now he's just up there all the time. But but that makes them these characters that you can't really put a finger on, except for they've got this energy behind them that says, "I got to deal with all this shit." Yeah. But when they get on stage, that's what makes them great. That makes sense.
Well, I mean,
a great artist isn't going to be a walk in the park a lot of the time, but it brings great art and it brings great music and rock and roll, especially rock and roll.
Yeah.
So
I mean, who else could be the front man for AC/DC and for Guns N' Roses? Yeah. Only Axl.
Yeah. He's the guy that I remember used to watch him run across the stage back and forth. He'd go, and it was like watching a ping pong game. Yeah. It was like I'd see the whole audience go. Like,
and singing at the same time.
Yeah, and the whole audience would follow him like a ping pong game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey, I'm up here too," but no one gave a shit. It was
yes,
like,
we did.
No, I mean,
yes, we did. Matt.
Well,
we did. You were that hard, heavy drummer, man.
Well, the one thing about that band is everyone was a character.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at bands and everyone in the band, that's a big difference between maybe younger bands. I work with my band Kings of Chaos, where I bring a lot of classic guys out. We can just shift into that a little bit. And I'll have these people, they're putting on a show and they want a certain singer. And I'll say, some names. Like I love Lizzie Hale. I think she's amazing. And I'll say Lizzie Hale now. Who's that?
Oh wow.
But then I'll say Robin Zander or Billy Gibbons or Steven Tyler or Sammy Hagar, and they're like, oh yeah, they will. And then I'll say Corey Taylor, which I've worked with. He's played with King's Chaos.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, many times.
Oh, huge Slipknot fan.
Yeah, but they don't connect the two. The singer isn't its own identity with the name Slipknot.
Right.
Corey Taylor's done pretty well getting out there with himself.
Yes, he
Like,
has.
But it's there's some disconnect between the classic rock singers of the day. I mean, Chris Cornell and Chester, and even Chester. He played with me. He came and played with me in King's Chaos. We did Long Beach Grand Prix. People saw Chester do his thing with me and were like, holy shit. Because he didn't get of course, Linkin Park's a massive band, but he didn't get the notoriety as the frontman like the old school guys. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I forgot to introduce
Sancho.
our mascot.
Yeah.
Sancho.
Sancho.
Sancho is just,
Sancho is a
Basically
social
making
media
love to
star.
him.
Girls love dogs.
Yeah,
Hi.
they do. I love Sancho.
Yeah, Sancho's cool. All right, Kings of Chaos. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Let's talk about Velvet Revolver first.
Okay.
Let's talk about Velvet.
do
I mean, what an incredible. I mean, Neurotic Outsiders.
Yep.
Like walk from leaving Guns N' Roses, right? And then we did the Neurotic Outsiders. Steve and John Taylor and
Well,
Duff.
Neurotics was actually in the middle of GN'R, right before we broke up.
That's true.
So, and then you worked with us.
I was your
You
phone
managed.
manager.
You managed us.
Yeah.
Was Goldstein in on that deal?
No.
It was just you.
Just me and Anita.
Anita.
Who worked
Camarati.
Who worked
John
with us.
Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, we had everything teed up, and then the Sex Pistols got
That happened by accident.
Yeah.
We all got
Iowa
clean.
Siri.
I got clean then.
Oh.
That was my first round.
That was the first round.
My first round in '96 when I knew I had to get my shit together. So I didn't know, but
You thought it would be a good idea.
I ended up someplace I needed to go. But anyway, and I met John Taylor and Steve Jones.
Wow.
Through that. And I actually met Steve when he was getting loaded, and he'll admit it, way back in the day. But then, and me and Duff got cleaned up. And we threw a charity event for a guy a friend of ours that had cancer at the Viper Room. And with fucking room was packed, and people were freaking out. And then we started doing all these guest singers, like Billy Idol would come, and Brian Setzer, and we had Iggy Pop one night. PA went out, and he climbed in the rafters. So all these singers would come up and sing with us. And Guy Osiri, there was a young Guy Osiri in the audience, standing there every night. And we started doing every Monday night.
Wow.
And the joke was we're just doing it so Steve Jones can get a blowjob. So it was like
Steve loved a good blowjob.
He was a single guy, and we were just trying to help him out. So
Trying to help a guy out.
it was really about him. It was like stevejones.org. So it was that kind of a thing, fun. We had guest singers all the time, and everyone and their brother was coming to that show.
Yeah, that's right.
So Guy Osiri came back in the dressing room after we played one night. He says, I want to sign you guys to Maverick. And I just seen Austin Powers, and I said, $1 million.
And it worked.
And he went, and he said, okay.
Wow.
And
They had just released Alanis Morissette
Yeah.
and had the biggest record in the world.
Wow.
And I worked with Guy consistently with a lot of artists, and Neurotic Outsiders, man, it was so the power and the energy that you guys had was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good band. It was short-lived because
What happened there?
we went out and played some shows. We did some short tours, didn't we? East Coast, West Coast, and then the Pistols got back together. They did that
They reformed.
and they did some business, did a live album, and then Duran Duran kind of rebooted, and then Axl called me and Duff back to the studio.
Right, you went back in.
Yeah.
For Chinese democracy.
Well,
Was it?
we were working on those songs,
Okay.
and not those ones that made the record.
Okay.
I can't even remember. It was fragments of stuff.
Right.
But at that point, Slash had left, and then I did the first Slash's Snake Pit record too, and Axl called me back in on that, so I didn't tour with Slash.
Oh, okay.
John Taylor, one of the most handsome men in history of the world.
Yeah, that's why we got him in the band. We just thought it'd be a good idea.
Man, he is fine as wine.
Good looking dude. He's a good looking.
He is a good looking.
A great bass player too, mind you.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so good looking. You kind of overlook his talent. It's almost like a really handsome actor. You're like, that guy's really talented too. Like that kid Timothy Chalamet. He's like,
oh yeah,
he's a killer actor, but he's such a handsome guy. You're like, he can't be that good.
Oh, he acts.
But John Taylor, listen to Rio. The bass on that is awesome. Yeah. So fast forward, we go back to GN'R. GN'R splits up, and then some time goes by. And a very good friend of mine, Randy Castillo, passed away. Drummer from Ozzy Osbourne, and I was with him when he passed too. Yeah, I was with him, and Ozzy was there, and he played in Ozzy. So I was like, I always was like, drummers, do they get the notoriety they deserve? I mean, Randy Castillo dies, small print, so I go, fuck it. I'm going to throw a concert for Randy Castillo. And Phil Cezanne was the bass player in Ozzy. Me and Phil did the whole thing.
Yeah.
Phil goes, what are we going to, I said, we're going to fucking throw a show for Randy at the, what's that club on Sunset?
Key Club? Wasn't it the Key Club? I think I was involved.
He's better than me.
Some things I remember, some I don't, which is interesting.
That's good. We can check on that. So yeah, Key Club. So I remember I called Slash, and Axl had already gone out and called himself Guns N' Roses.
That's right.
And we were like, okay, now what? So I called Slash, and he didn't really know Randy that well, but he goes, yeah, man, I'll do it. And I called Duff, and we hadn't played together in a long time. Slash went off and did Blues Ball and all this other shit he was doing, and Duff was messing around with his band Loaded, and I went back to the Cult for a little while. I was in the Cult in 99, 2001, made a record for Atlantic called Beyond Good and Evil. I toured with them around the world. And then that was around 99 to 2001. And 2003, Randy died. And we threw this concert. Slash and Duff came. We used to sing from Buck Cherry, and we had Cypress Hill there. And then I was talking to Tyler, Steven Tyler, and he was going, "I'm in town, man. What do you guys?" I said, "We're at the Key Club. Come down tonight." He goes, "All right." So he shows up. We fucking did the most insane version of Mama Kin because we both that's their song.
Yeah.
But we recorded it, and I wish there was good video in those days because I found some shitty version on YouTube or something. But so anyway, after that, Slash and Duff called. Slash called me first. I remember it was the next morning. I was in my favorite little breakfast place called Quality on Beverly.
Oh, don't know that place?
I used to sit there, and I used to like to go there because Julia Roberts would go in there. I was too shy to go
What's
talk
that
to
address? I mean, just right there.
I always tell my wife knows this story. I think Julia Roberts liked me, but I was too shy to talk to her. So Slash goes, "We should do this." And I go, "What? Do what?" He goes, "Start the band." And then Duff called too a little bit later and goes, let's do this. And then we started out with Izzy. Izzy came.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, in the beginning.
Oh.
And we were all in the room. And it was kind of sounding like Guns N' Roses, basically.
A little bit.
And then Izzy just disappeared. Typical Izzy. He got a bunch of songs and he left. And then, what happened? And then Izzy put out some of those songs. On a record. Yeah, but Izzy, and the world knows this.
Yeah.
He came up with the coolest shit.
No.
He came,
he was cool.
I have demos of it, and I still talk to Izzy, and I go, "Dude, remember this song?" And he'll go,
he was talented.
He would come in with this riff, and we'd write. So that was a whole different thing. And then Duff goes, "Hey, I got this friend, Dave Kushner." And I hadn't really heard of the guy.
And so I worked with Kushner with Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
He was in Vanilla Ice's band.
Right.
And that's how I met him, because Ross Robinson hooked up. And I remember when that all broke out, he was like, "I'm playing with Matt, I'm playing with Duff."
Yeah. So Dave came down, and Dave had this more modern, sort of edgy, a lot of electronics, and it gave us this modern thing against the classic thing, like Slash's classic riffage.
Yeah.
I got excited for a minute because I understood that, we were all sober, we all got in really good shape. I ate nothing but egg whites and chicken.
Wow. That's why you look so good, but we'll talk about
If
that
you look
later.
back at Velvet Revolver, I was skinny as a rail.
Really?
I was like clean. We all felt reinvigorated. We all felt like hungry again.
Yeah.
You know, because we didn't have a band that we could like put our feather in our cap and go like. And then we looked for the singer, and that took fucking forever. There's a documentary called The Rise of Velvet Revolver, and we spent about a year and a half shooting. It's on YouTube.
Were you mates that whole time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
year and a
Remember
half. And the documentary shows me like sitting there, and I used to smoke cigars because I was off drugs.
cigars.
I was off drugs and alcohol, and I smoked cigars. And I was like, you guys, is this a fucking hobby or what? I mean, I gotta get going. I'm a working drunk.
You were always a driving force, bro.
Yeah,
Always.
Thank you. And Slash is, Slash like, all right, man, just be cool, man. I'm like, and then Duff walks in one day and he says, hey, I just had dinner with Scott Weiland and his wife, and he's out of Stone Temple Pilots. And my first question was, why is he out of Stone Temple Pilots? So,
Yeah.
if you watch the documentary, we go through a lot of shit in the beginning.
Wow.
Like getting him clean, and we get him clean,
Yeah.
and then we make that record, Contra Man.
Yeah.
And everything culturally that was happening musically, we knew at 40 years of age. I was 42, maybe 40, which is crazy to think it's 20 years ago. But we fired on all cylinders because Queens of the Stone Age was out. Foo Fighters were kind of young. We were like, it was more like, let's go there.
Yeah.
And I kind of pushed. We all had a great collective.
Yeah.
And Slash had a thing, and me and Duff were more punky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we created these songs, and then Scott fucking sang on them.
He was great.
And we're like, oh, fuck, there it is. And the collaboration worked. And then we got a bidding war between Clive Davis, Sylvia Rohn, and Tom Whalley. And that was fucking bitching. Because we were like fucking, getting...
Back in it, baby.
Yeah. And then, in those days, K-Rock was the thing that said you had a hit or not. And I remember Slither came out on K-Rock and just was on like every hour. And we're like,
Kevin Weatherly. Yeah.
we're like, here we go.
Yeah.
So anyway, that took off. We had...
And you got a Grammy out of it.
We did.
Yeah, which is amazing.
We got a Grammy. We got 3 nominations.
Yeah.
We were in Clive Davis's world. He signed us.
I worked, well, I didn't work with him. I was with Air Supply before you guys. That was his
Yeah, I
big
know
band.
that.
Air Supply to Velvet Revolver.
Yeah.
Were you there the night in London when Air Supply was in the lobby
Yes.
bar?
Yeah,
Remember? Remember? Do you remember that, John?
Yeah.
We
Lost
were
in
we were
Love,
at the
bro.
Lost in Love.
was it? Oh, this is good. The Conrad Hotel.
The Conrad Hotel.
How many
Don't go
months-
there.
How many months did we spend
I'm
at
not
the
gonna go
Conrad
there.
Hotel?
But I just remember it was
Yes,
on
it
the
was
river,
Conrad Hotel.
right on the Thames.
Wasn't it Elton John's hotel or something?
I think he lived across.
I mean, he lived there.
Now I tell this story, but Air Supply was in the bar, and we
Yeah.
had Teddy. At that time, we had Teddy Zigzag in the
Yeah,
band.
Teddy
out of your
Big Bag
ass.
Zigzag.
And the joke was, we bring Teddy on the road because he could play 1,000 songs, and we could take over the bar, and
Yeah.
he'd have a piano.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember Air
Yes.
Supply guys coming in
Yep.
and singing?
Yep. Unbelievable.
Do you remember? Okay, one more thing about that.
Yeah.
Do you remember Prince being in the hotel?
I do. I remember Whitney Houston being.
I
in
remember
the
Whitney
hotel,
Houston.
with Bobby Brown.
I tell
With
this
Bobby-
story, and this could
What
be a
about the-
blurry. This could be
go.
a blurry drug
Okay, go
induced,
ahead.
blurry
I
drug
doubt that.
induced dream. But I tell it anyway. Just go with me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So-
I'm a speaker. I do this all the time.
Supposedly, Prince had the presidential suite, and Axl was supposed to get that suite, and he was in another suite, and that was the suite that had the piano. And
oh,
the-
this is sounding familiar.
and then Prince would order 500 towels, and that was like, and Axl was kind of. We were all hearing this, so I was getting wasted with Slash in his room, and we had people in there, and the sun was coming up, and I hear a crane with a piano
I remember this.
to Axl's room, right?
Yep, yep.
I'm like, what the fuck is that? It's like, because I'm like, I'm high, I'm seeing some shit, and
Had to take care of business, bro.
they
I
got
think you ordered it.
Yeah.
the piano went up the crane into the room because he
yeah.
wanted a fucking piano.
Yeah, yeah. Had to have the,
And I said, get him a piano. He wrote that other song. It's pretty good. November Rain. Get the guy a piano. So those kind of things I remember very well. Like
the
you know.
crazy stuff that
Well,
you don't see a crane outside a window with a
well,
piano every day.
Yeah, I mean, shit. You like really? Wow. So
Conrad Hotel was one of my favorite hotels for numerous reasons. But all right, so now you're in Velvet Revolver, and then Scott, that whole thing. What happens next?
after that, I was like, do I have another band in me?
Yeah. Right?
And that was, Velvet Revolver was really my first band I was a founder of.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was an equal member. Mm-hmm. I wrote songs. I wrote Set Me Free.
Wow.
I wrote a bunch of songs on the first record. I got a publishing deal.
That's great.
I always had songs. I was always a writer. But, Axl recognized that I wrote.
Yes.
But the rest of the band was like, we got it. But anyway, Velvet Revolver, I wrote the first song for the Hulk movie when I fucking realized how publishing was so valuable. And the check came and I went, me and Scott look at each other and go, I wrote the whole music part, you wrote the lyrics. We could split this in half. So I remember saying, why don't we do this? I heard the Chili Peppers are still together because they split the publishing equal.
That's right.
And Green Day too.
Mm-hmm.
I go, why don't we do that?
Yes.
So we made a precedent, and that's what happened.
Oh, wow.
So those two records we split, but we all had to contribute.
Yeah.
And which we did. And some guys had better songs than others, and we just.
I think it works better that way. Full members of the band. Queen did it.
Yeah. Velvet Revolver, we fell back into bad habits.
Was that
the demise?
The money came. A lot of money.
You guys were getting paid a lot of money touring too.
More money than I ever saw with GN'R.
Because you were one. Yeah.
For me, hey, if I got which I had 10% of GN'R, didn't mean we didn't spend it all. 10% of what?
For what?
No, it's not that I spent it all. The way we lived out there.
The after parties.
We had 10 limos just in case we wanted to go get a cheeseburger.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like
we had our own plane. We rented leased out the MGM Grand. 30 first class seats.
The perils of rock and roll decadence.
Well, you know what? I don't give a fuck because it was an amazing time.
It was.
That's right.
And
the after parties were amazing during the Metallica tour.
I say to everyone, and I used to say, I got the memory of that you can't put any dollar amount. I don't give a shit.
I agree.
And it made the band legendary.
Yeah. And the legacy of that band.
I mean, Lars wanted to fly with us. I know. That tells you Sebastian wanted to fly with us.
The legacy of that band will carry on in my life for the rest of my life. And it's brought me to a lot of other avenues because of the legacy of that particular household name.
Yeah.
I've gotten into startup companies.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about your charity. Let's talk about Palm Springs. Here we are in Palm Springs at your studio, Good Noise.
So Velvet Revolver, we split up. Wineland goes back to STP. At that point, I'm kind of like, okay, now what? And we spent some time trying to figure out if we could get a new singer. That didn't happen. So we all kind of branch off, I joined a band called Camp Freddy with Dave Navarro. Then I started a thing called Kings of Chaos. And during Velvet Revolver, I met this beautiful girl named Ace Harper. And that was 21 years ago I met her.
Wow.
And we went through stuff, and then we both got sober 17 years ago. We've both been clean. She was a party girl. I loved her. She's fun.
Well, how do you not meet party girls being...
She was a fun girl. She still is. But, and then I came out to Palm Springs. I did 2 solo records. They went nickel. My mom bought 5 copies.
I bought one. They went nickel.
So I made these solo records purely for the joy of making the music, right?
Sure, of course.
And I was out here. My friend was a chef out here at this hotel called Colony Palms.
Okay.
And we went to eat there.
Yeah.
I was back in the casita with my buddy writing songs. And I walked outside and I called my wife. I go, I think I found the place where we should get married.
Yeah.
And she came out and she loved it. And the vibe of the mountain and the sun was out, like today.
Oh, it's beautiful.
This is a magical place.
Yeah.
I moved here 5 months ago.
I know.
And people come here for wellness.
Yeah, wellness.
They come here, they don't come here for drama, for politics, for any bullshit. They come here to get well.
That's
and
right.
to feel well.
Yeah.
And it resonates in everything about this community.
It does. And it really, that was sort of our happy, like, day of the happiest day of our lives, right? So we rode bikes. We were riding bicycles. And we stayed a few days after, and then we rode back into this neighborhood that we live in now. And we're like, whoa, no telephone poles, all 1959 to 61 houses. And we're in, like, what is this? So we rented a house for about a month, 6 weeks or something. And this was like 2016. And then about 2 years after that, we rented a house year round for about 2-3 years. And then I said to my wife, I said, you love it, right? Well, she got pregnant and in LA, and I remember walking out as the pandemic had started kicking in. It was fucking shit everywhere. It was a fucking nightmare. And I had the pad in LA with her. And I go, let's get the fuck out of here.
Get out of Dodge.
And we sold that house in like a day. Property went nuts, remember? Everyone was buying houses.
Oh yeah, because they were moving from Beverly Hills in their condos, and no one wanted to be in a condo with people.
Well,
so they
they could get money for free. It was like 3%.
That's right. It was, oh my God. Yeah.
And so anyway, we bought this house out here and moved out here and had our baby here. And they were like, we sold LA and just left. And in the summer it gets hot and people go, what are you doing this summer? I go, we leave, we travel, we go to Santa Barbara, whatever. Yeah. Last year we were in Laguna for a little bit. But we just love it. We've been able to have a clear head. I used to worry about leaving LA because I used to think it was out of sight, out of mind. Right. But now with the internet and virtual and your presence.
The one thing that COVID gave us that we learned that we could actually still interact virtually.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoom changed the world.
Zoom changed the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes we get sometimes for bad, but the bad part is that you don't get to do this as much anymore. But I think that's coming back now as well. Yeah. But you two have made an amazing move. Amazing. This is, like you said, this is the health capital of the world. Mm-hmm. Look at you.
You look, by the way, I got to comment on that, man.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at you, man.
You didn't look like this when we talked.
You look like a 30-year-old man.
I know.
You seriously do.
Yeah, well, I used to drink a lot, you remember?
No. Really? I never saw you.
And I say, hey, look, I got no judgment on anybody that drinks alcohol. It's just like, for me, it was like, luckily I'm still alive. I say that about the band. I say that about all those guys. We're alive. Yes. We're all alive.
Yeah.
Because the shit we did was like, but, with my baby, having a kid, that changed me. Like, completely. I'm a completely different dude. I'm like, I waited to have my child because I didn't feel ready. Like, I wasn't worthy. Yeah. And I had to do a lot of work on myself before I could get
that's the key.
In a position to be a good father. And now I'm like, that's my goal in life, is just to raise my kid.
I love it.
And then health-wise, I checked myself out. And
do you want to share what you said that you might have wanted to share?
Yeah. The craziest thing was, it'll be 2 years ago, May. About this time, 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with throat cancer.
Which I did not know.
I didn't tell anybody, and I'm only telling it now.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. I wanted, it's funny when you address health, 5,000 people will text you, and they all have an opinion. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't know if I want to hear that. So when I found that out, it was probably one of the scariest things I ever heard, the word cancer. And I was stage 2 at the time. And I had just had a baby, and God, she was a year and a half old. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, what the hell? So, and I'd like to say this to the other guys my age out there. I'm 64. So this happened to me at 62. You need to go in and get checked, because I went in because of my kid. And I always felt like I was a healthy guy. I went to the gym. I ate pretty good. I'm off alcohol. I don't drink, I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I put the doctor off. And now I'm adamant. So anyway, I went through, luckily, I have a very good friend who is tied to UCLA and Stanford University and MD Anderson. And it was the scariest time for me because I was a fish out of water. What do you do when you hear the word cancer? Because these hospitals are corporations, and they get you and they want to just say, hey, we're going to give you chemo and give you radiation. And my friend said, Matt, you need to go to the top authorities in this particular field. And he connected me with the head and neck expert at UCLA, MD Anderson, and Stanford. And I kind of basically, it was like buying a car. Where am I going to go?
Yeah, right.
So I met my surgeon, May St. John, who's a fucking brilliant woman, genius. And she sat me in her office and she looked at me and she said, you're not going to die.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, and that's all you want to hear when you get cancer.
She said to me, she said,
fine.
Matt, she's about my age, a little bit younger. She said, when we grew up and you heard the word cancer, that meant you were going to die. And, she said, this is treatable. We can get this. And now they've got this thing called the Da Vinci robot.
Yep.
And the Da Vinci robot is this a GPS machine that goes in there and micro cuts in super strategic pin, and the surgeon did 17 cuts, lymph nodes in my neck, and I still check every six months. But then the aftermath of that was I had about 6 months down. Beat me up good. When you get a surgery, and they said to me right before I went in, if by any chance we have a miscalculation and there could be a nerve clip, you might not be able to lift your arms over your head. And I'm like, oh, thanks.
And a miscalculation could just
But I said, does that happen at UCLA? Is that off Route 66 at the 2-for-1 special? I mean, I'm like, so no, I can tell you it's never happened here.
Oh, good.
So,
and you don't.
But they need to tell you that.
Sure, of course.
And it's a scary surgery. And anyway, after that situation, I'm the most proactive.
Yes.
I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with it, but pretty much.
Yeah.
You've got that baby and this beautiful wife, and everything that you're. We have to talk about your charity too, Adopt the Arts.
Yeah, just real quick on the health thing. So inflammation, I've gotten that down. I'm off all that crap. I take a pretty good handful of vitamins. I have what's called a concierge doctor.
That's what I have.
In an organization called MDVIP.
We have it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So worth it.
Yeah.
You just call, you make a phone call, whatever you need is ready.
That's right.
You just walk in, no appointment.
And if you can't afford it, it's not too
crazy.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like having a mother that says, "Son," and I get it done. So anyway, I'm feeling better than I've ever felt, and so yeah, and that keeps me invigorated and moving forward. And I realized that since 2009, I haven't been in a band with a collective, and I'm my own guy.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I go, what's going to happen today? And I do stuff.
And you're doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, just business-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. What am I doing tomorrow?
Yeah.
What you're doing in the Palm Springs area with Adopt the Arts, I mean, I salute you, bro. Tell us a little bit about it, because arts and music is being cut out of every school in the country. That's the first thing. That's the first budget thing that gets cut, and there's nothing. In my opinion, there's nothing more important than music as a human connection. It's our memory. It's our past. It's our future.
Yeah.
It's moments. And talk a little bit about Adopt the Arts.
Yeah, well, the whole philanthropic thing came organically for me. I got clean 17 years ago, and then I just became, I was like reborn. But then I fell into this charity with Paul Haggis, Artists for Peace and Justice, and we were doing a thing for Haiti, and Quincy Jones was involved, and they asked me, and I was going to go down with them for this school after the earthquake, and I had all these instruments, and we were all going to make this trip. And it was very difficult. The country was, taxing and all this kind of crazy stuff, very corrupt. And so I had all these instruments, but I didn't go because the taxation was going to be more than like what the instruments were worth. So I ended up getting a call from a neighbor of mine and said, hey, there's a school right up the street that needs instruments. So I walked up to this public school, and I have a video where it's like an old tumbleweed blowing through, and an old broken down piano, and teacher standing out there like. So I started my charity and asked the school if they want me to come in and sponsor them, and I saw that the LAUSD was having a rally, and they were getting ready to cut $50 million in music. So I showed up downtown. It was the only two people that were there were me and Debbie Allen, the dancer.
Wow.
And I had nothing prepared except for I was in the boardroom with the superintendent at the time, John Daisy, and they were getting ready to make the cut. And he says, does anyone have anything to say about this next,
huge cut.
This cut? And Debbie comes up to me. She goes, I'm going to speak. Do you want to speak? And I got up on the microphone. And you can find it online. And I went into this whole loosely based thing on how can you possibly cut music and art in the biggest city in the capital of entertainment in the world? That's a bad look. And I basically pointed at them. And at that moment, I became an activist.
Wow.
And the next day, I got a call that John Daisy wanted me to come into his office. And he found out who I was, and Debbie spoke too. And I went down there, and I'm sitting in the office. This guy's running the entire LAUSD school district. And we start talking about Foghat or something. It's like, right? The connection was there.
Yeah.
And in my life, I've learned the connection is there.
Is everything. Yes.
And I'll tell you I got tons of stories about big CEOs, huge guys. They just want to meet me because they want to talk about music.
That's it.
I've been at Davos. I've hung out with Jamie Dimon. I've hung out with Tony Blair. And you know what they want to talk about?
Yeah.
Music.
You want to hear something crazier? You're the star. I was Axl Rose's personal assistant, and they want to talk to me about music. Wow. I have all these unbelievable connections because I toured with Guns N' Roses. I wasn't even in the band.
Yeah.
But that's how much people want to talk about music.
It touches people's lives like
does.
nothing else. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right,
so I go there. I make a partnership with him, and I start my first school. It's going on 13 years ago, Rosewood Avenue, and then I moved down to Venice, Westminster. I had that school till recently, and now we've moved the program out here to the desert. I came to the desert, and I realized the desert is the mecca of old school. The Rat Pack was here.
That's right.
There's history here.
Yes.
There, some of the greatest stars lived here. There's a great art community. There's great museums. There's now the International Film Festival. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Something's percolating, right? There's a vibe. It reminds me of going to Hollywood as a young kid and being on the Strip. There's something percolating. Musicians are coming. When it says that magazine, the Palm Springs Life, the musicians are coming, right? And we need to go and find energy. And the energy's here now. Hollywood doesn't have that anymore. Right. It's not welcoming.
No.
It's like, hey, come to the Sunset Strip like I did when I was a kid to make it in rock and roll. And so I went and I found the superintendent of schools here, Palm Springs Unified School District, open arms.
Of course. Yeah.
What do you need, Matt? He gave me 4 schools. I've got the teachers. We've trained the teachers with, they've always had music in the schools here, and they don't want to let that go, which is great. So the model that's happening here is moving a lot quicker than LA. LA is a political push. It's hard to get through the noise. And then I'm going to do 2 more next year, and the plan is to have all 27 in the valley.
Wow.
And
Fantastic.
So
where you supply instruments.
And I have a curriculum. I wrote a book. It took me 10 years to write the curriculum.
Wow.
But it's not just based about music. It's based around innovation, creativity, but mindfulness, anxiety. A lot of these kids go through a lot of stuff. They got these damn phones. They've got peer pressure on the phone. They've got bullying, all this crap. So music is their sanctuary. And we used to do art. We do push mainly music now. We're a music art program, but it's a big animal. So we just have a focus.
Yep.
Music. And I have great collaborators that I work with, like Yo-Yo Ma, the great cellist.
Wow.
I went to the capital of the country with him, and we spoke. Yeah. I was with Nancy Pelosi and, talking about the arts, because my whole thing is music isn't about creating the next rock star. It's about giving a kid a chance to innovate and learn how to be creative. And what's that going to bring a kid is going to bring, I have a talent to be creative. If it's music or if it just starts to get their imagination going, which becomes innovation. So I say, this is the gateway to possibly the next Steve Jobs or whoever.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And Yo-Yo Ma believes the same thing.
That's
so he spoke at the John F. Kennedy Center. He talks about it being in a system called STEAM. So me and Yo-Yo believe in a system called STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics.
Yes.
They teach them STEM right now. But we're working on it.
You're adding the A.
And I've got some big people behind me. And it's my passion. And I'm like, if there's anything, when I die on my tombstone,
Yes.
say, what am I to? You party with that band Guns N' Roses, and now he's doing, and he did this.
You were really good at that,
Well,
and you're really good at this.
I mean, even when you read the book, that's just that's it.
Yeah.
We're all younger guys.
yeah,
And I say to people, we all did shit in our lives that we probably look back and go, oh my God, really? But, everyone has a life journey. And my journey's taken me here. And there's nights when I sit down and I go, geez, it's 10 o'clock and I'm tired. I remember,
we used to start at 10.
Well,
yeah,
there's nothing tapping me on the shoulder because I always say, been there, done that.
yeah.
I got an extra large t-shirt that says, been there, done that. It's like, okay, good.
I'm too tired to do that again. There's no way I would do that.
Yeah.
My son's in a band right now. That's why we're here right now. And I look at the future of what they are probably going to go through. It's totally different. Totally different world now.
Yeah.
The rock and roll world.
Yeah.
And I like his version of what it will be because I don't want him to do what we all do.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing with Good Noise here too.
Oh, yeah.
Good Noise Studio here, which Thredge is here. We have another artist coming on Tuesday, and giving a platform for artists with a welcoming spirit and a vibe in this community to make music. And thank you, Matt, for providing that as well.
If you're thinking about getting a studio, even if you're in LA to record, the great thing about coming here is, first of all, you're at Matt's studio, Guns N' Roses guy. But even better than that, there's an energy, like you guys talked about, here in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
So it's a creative energy, it's a wellness energy. And in LA, we used to be at Mates all the time and all those type of places, great legendary places. But it's LA and the distractions. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
Compared to this.
Compared to that,
I still drive into town.
yeah.
I still drive into town and rehearse at Mates. I've got a couple gigs.
I didn't mean Mates was a shithole. I'm saying LA.
In LA. Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But what you have created here is just when John and I walked in, well, you were here first.
Yeah.
When I walked in, I was like, oh my God, I want.
Oh, and you
to
built
record
a
here.
place from scratch.
I did. I did it myself. I love designing. And
Yeah,
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I was in here every day working with the guys.
and it was fun. It was
I picked the colors on the walls,
Yeah.
all that shit.
I mean, we could talk to you for 5 hours.
I know.
Man, and we gotta wrap it up.
Yeah.
What a wonder! I'm just blessed to have been able to, know you and see the person that you've become and continue to become.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And we're fortunate to be able to talk to you today.
Well,
Yeah.
it's great to see you guys, man. I mean, we got a lot of history, and
Yeah,
so you know.
it was. We had some unbelievably great times, but the fact that we're all still alive, doing great, and
Yeah.
we're all doing really good things right now.
Yeah.
it's
Right,
there's
lot-
something to be said for that.
Oh, and Matt will be at our. Oh, we didn't even talk about this.
Right.
He'll be at our Breaking Into Music.
Our Breaking Into Music event, May
Here in
1st,
Palm
2nd,
Springs.
3rd in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
You'll be one of our stars
That's
of
right.
the event. We have 24 mentors coming. It's basically how to break into the music industry, meeting the top people, and you'll get to meet Matt and hang with Matt. And,
Yeah.
Talk about anything.
Yeah.
Especially off the record. It's
What
a lot of fun.
what not to do.
What not to do as well. Matt, we love you, buddy.
Thank you,
It
brother.
was so great seeing you. Man. So great. John!
That damn podcast.
That damn podcast.
Episode
Matt
1.
was our first guest
Really?
ever
All right.
Episode
on
1.
that damn podcast. we'll see you at the next one where we'll have someone pretty special as well.
You can be whoever you want to be. You just got to do it.
That's right.